Welcome to the course on digital system design. In the previous lecture, we looked at the registers and shift registers. We will continue with that in this lecture also. So here we will look at the utilities of shift registers and then the universal shift registers. So in the end of the last lecture, we saw how the shift registers can be used to implement serial adder. So briefly we will recall it and then look at a different design based on which the same serial adders can be designed using shift registers. We have two shift registers A and B and then a full adder, so that can carry out a bit by bit addition. The carry that is generated in any given bit position is being stored using a D flip-flop and then reused in the addition of the next bit. A clock that comes and controls the shifting in the shift register as well as in the D flip-flop. We have a shift control operation that enables only appropriate number of clock cycles to control the shift register and the D flip-flop or the shift operations. So the content of the A register and B register are taken one bit at a time starting from the LSB and then added with this carry. Initial carry is 0. The sum is being stored back into the A shift register. The carry is being stored in D register for its reusage. Now, if you want to look at a different way of designing the same serial adder using shift register, you can do so without explicitly using a full adder. We can just use certain discrete gates and one JK flip-flop and carry out the same full adder operations. See, here what we have done is, we have not used a full adder, and instead of the D flip-flop, we have used a JK flip-flop, which serves the purpose of not only generating the sum input, as well as it also is used to store the carry input. So the carry is stored in the JK flip-flop and the sum which is generated using the bits from the shift register, that is X and Y, and the carry, the sum input is being stored in the shift register. So in this, to implement it, let's see how the addition needs to be carried out. That we would see in the form of this truth table. So you have a present state that stores the possible carry that comes out of the previous bit addition. So it can take 0 or 1. There are the two inputs X and Y, which are the bits of A and B register to be added. To begin with, X and Y will be the LSBs, at the end they will be MSBs. One bit at a time we are taking and adding. Again, they can take any possible values, so there are 8 possible combinations. For each of this combination, we find what should be the sum output and what should be the carry output. The carry output is stored in this JK flip-flop, so that forms the next state of the that is the Q plus of the JK flip-flop. Okay, the next state to be stored. So if you do a 3-bit addition, what would be the sum? We can see that if the number of ones in X, Y and Q, if they are 1 or if they are 3, then the sum is 1. Look at this, here it is 0, 0, 1, on addition the sum will be 1. Here also there is 0, 1, 0, sum is 1. And this is a case of 1, 0, 0, then the sum is 1. If there are just 2 ones in the 3 bits to be added, then the sum will become 0. Whereas if all the 3 inputs are 1, 1, 1, the sum will also be 1. So this is what the sum would be. You might have studied it when we are discussing the full adder implementation. So the sum is nothing but a 3 input exclusive OR operation of X, Y and Q. If either there are 1 ones or 3 ones, then the output is a 1. So we can just find out the sum by doing a 3-bit operation, okay, of exclusive OR operation. So of X, Y and the present value of the carry, that is Q. So and that is stored back in the A register. And what we have to store here is what we would have got as the carry output if we have used a full adder. And here you would see that the carry would be produced when there are 2 ones or when there are 3 ones. So in the case when there are 2 ones, here 0 1 1 or 1 0 1 or 1 1 0 or 3 ones 1 1 1, we have a carry. So this is when we need to produce a carry. So you could have find out the logic function corresponding to it and fed it to a D flip-flop and stored. But in this case we are rather using a JK flip-flop. So the question is, if this is the present bit stored in the JK flip-flop and this is the desired bit to be stored, what should be the J and K inputs that will make that possible? This is actually a problem of synthesis of a design of a digital circuit using JK flip-flop. To do that, we should find out what is called as the excitation table of JK flip-flop, that tells how the JK flip-flop inputs have to be excited for a particular transition to occur from the present state of the JK flip-flop, from the present bit that is stored to the desired next bit to be stored. We will look at those later, the excitation table of JK flip-flop and design of digital circuit based on JK flip-flop later. But this is a prelude to such a design. We can easily find out how it can be carried out. See, the present bit is in the JK flip-flop is 0. We want it to remain as 0. How do we enable that? Using a suitable combination of J and K. So this is one way, it's a no change condition. So if you put a 0 in J and 0 in K, it will happen. We can also view it as a reset condition because the next state has to be 0. So if there is a 0 in Q and a 1 in the 0 in J and a 1 in K, then also the next bit to be stored will be 0, which means J has to be 0 where K can be either 0 or 1. So that we can represent it as a 0 and X, because as long as J is 0, the next bit stored in the JK flip-flop is 0. So we don't care about X. This is what precisely an excitation table of JK flip-flop will give. So we will, if you have an excitation table, we can easily find out the JK input for the present bit and the next bit, and using that this can be stored. This is just to give an idea how this arrives at. So using the same value, we have got J and K, then these can be simplified using a K map, and thereby J and K inputs can be arrived at. So this is how J is nothing but X and Y, and K is X exclusive OR Y. More detailed understanding of that you will know once the design based on JK flip-flop will be clear to you. You can probably revisit this example after the knowledge of the design using JK flip-flop. Now we have looked at parallel load registers. We have also looked at the shift registers and its utility. Each has got its own benefits. Well, so in this shift register, that example that we have looked at, so as the clock input comes, we can look at even the basic one. As the clock input is given, the bits are shifted towards the right hand side. That is, the serial input goes to the first D flip-flop, then the first flip-flop's output goes to the next flip-flop, and so on. So the bits move in the right hand side. Suppose you want the bits to move towards the left hand side. How do we do it? One way is to, it's only a conceptual visualization of which is right and which is wrong, left. You can just take this flip-flop and then flip it. That is, if you flip the page, then you would get a different version of shifting. Or the other way is, just you put the serial input here and put the serial output here. These have to be the D input and this has to be Q. So the D and Q has to be interchanged. That is, you change the position of this D flip-flop so that on this sides there will be a D input, there will be a D here, here and here, and these will be Qs. That is, the serial input will first go to this rightmost flip-flop, then it will go to the next flip-flop and so on. Then this way you can do a left shift operation. So sometime it may be useful in a, instead of just viewing it differently, whether it is a left or right, in a given shift register, sometime you would like to shift it either leftwise or rightwise in the using the same register. That would come in handy sometimes. So now we are looking for a design where a shift register can, based on the control, can either act as a left shift register or a right shift register. We also saw that it is parallel load registers also are of use because it can load the input very fast parallelly, and you can also read out very fast parallelly. So we would like to have what is called as a universal shift register, which allows, takes the functionality of a parallel load register, left shift register, right shift register, or register which does not change its content based on the clock. So all these four functionalities we want to incorporate. For that, let us assume we use certain control signals which decides the mode of operation. There are four possible modes we are talking about, so we need 2 bits to control the mode. We will call that as S1 and S0. When both are, then it is up to us to designate what control bits combination will designate what functionality. This is an arbitrary assignment based on our design decision. Let us say when both S0 and S1 are 0, 0, we want no change to occur in the register content. If it is 0, 1, we want shift right operation. When it is 1, 0, we want shift left. When it is 1, 1, we want parallel load. So we are looking for a digital component or a building blocks which is a universal shift register that is built using a shift register as a component within it. The 2 control inputs S0 and S1 are given here to control the operation, and there is a bit that can be fed in as the serial input either on this left side or on the right side. And to enable the parallel load and operation, there has to be 4 lines which can go inside. They are called as the I lines, which are input lines, and the 4 of the bits can be read out parallelly. We'll call them as A lines. So they each are 4. Incidentally, if you put one arrow mark, one line like this, they carry a bit. So all these carry a bit. If we have 4 lines together, we call them as a bus. A bus is usually marked by a thick arrow mark, and the number of lines in a bus is usually denoted by the number, okay, next to that arrow mark, thick arrow mark, with a dash indicating that this carry the width of the bus. Here the input as well as the output buses are 4 bits in length. That is what these 2 indicates. There is of course a clock which controls the shift operation. There is a clear bit which can be used to clear it. Well, now how do we realize it? Again, the same operation is shown here. This is the mode control. We can do it as follows. So in this case, we have used 4 D flip-flops. Their outputs are denoted as Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3. And there is a clear bar input that goes to all these flip-flops to clear them to zeros to begin with. A common clock goes to all the clock inputs of the D flip-flops, positive edge triggered. And the serial input for the left is given here, and serial input for the this is for, in the right hand side you give for shift left, and for shift right operation you give it on the left hand side. So the serial input comes from the left hand side for a serial right. It goes first to this flip flop, then to this, and so on. In order to design how this flip flop should change based on the control mode, we use a mux. In particular, we use a 4-to-1 mux, because based on the operation, the D flip flop has to either restore its or restore the bit it has already got, which is the no change condition, or it has to take it from the flip flop from its right hand side or from the left hand side, or it should recirculate it bit and store it back. That is why we are using a 4-to-1 mux. The output of the mux is connected to the D input. The 4 inputs of this mux are called as I0, I1, I2, I3. And the control lines S0, S1 goes to all these muxes, 4 muxes. There are 4 muxes controlling 4 D flip flops. We have shown it only for this particular flip flop. So we can illustrate it in this using this one. For a 0-0 condition, you will see that when S0, S1 is 0, 0, it is the I0 that is selected and connected to the output of the mux, and which goes to the D. Under this condition, we don't want any change. To do that, we recirculate the Q bit from the same flip flop and give it to the I0. So when S0, S1 is 0, 0, when a clock pulse comes, Q is being sampled, recirculated, and stored back in it. No change. And for the case of 0, 1, we want shift right. 0, 1 means I1 will be selected. We have to shift right, which means that Q2 should go and get stored in Q1. So to the I1 input of this mux connected to this controlling this Q1, we should take the output from the Q2. So the Q2 is being taken and it is given to this I1. So in this shift right control mode, Q2 will come, go through I1 and through Y, and it will go to the D input and get stored. So Q2 will get stored in Q1 and Q1 will get stored in the next flip-flop and so on. I will show you a detailed diagram later. And for the shift left operation, then the control input is 1, 0. Okay. So when a 1, 0 occurs in S0, S1, we have to do shift left. Then in that case, I2 is the one which is connected to the D input. So you would see that I2 actually comes from the previous left side bit. Q0 is being used and fed to the I2, and it comes and then gets stored in Q1. Similarly, if the same circuitry is duplicated here, Q1 will get stored in Q2, Q2 will get stored in Q3, and Q3 will come out. And for the 1, 1 condition is parallel load. If you look at 1, 1 means I3 will get selected. To the I3 input, we have connected the external D input. So there are 4 bits D0, D1, D2, D3 which are used for providing the 4 bits to be parallelly loaded. So that bit will get stored here. So if you want a little detailed diagram of this universal shift register. This is the block diagram representation. This is the mode control truth table. The corresponding full diagram is shown here. And so this is the clear bar, this is the clock. So for each of this D flip-flop, the inputs, now they are called as I0, I1, I2, I3. So they go to the third input, and bit the 0th one are nothing but the recirculated one. Look, A0 is being circulated back to the 0th input. A1 is circulated back to the 0th input, and so on here also. Whereas for the case of the one input, we should shift right. So for all the one inputs, they get the bit from the previous the flip-flop on its left side. A1 goes to the one input of A0. A2 goes to the I1 one input of the mux connected to A1. A3 goes to the one input of the mux connected to A2, and so on. And for the left shift operation, we have to shift it towards this way. And A0, well, you will see that the serial input actually goes to the 2 input, and the 2 input, the second input of the mux actually receives the bit from A0. A0 goes to the input 2 of the mux connected to A1. Similarly, A1 goes to the second input of the mux controlling the A2, and so on. And the output, it acts as a serial input as well as the serial output. And you would see that you can also take out the serial output can be taken out directly from A0 or A1 as the desired case may be. So this universal shift register will be of use in implementing circuitry where you want a functionality to be configured to be either a shift register that can shift left or right or parallel. With this, we will conclude our discussion on registers, shift registers, and universal shift register. In the next lecture onwards, we will look at counters, wherein we will make use of a register and make it to go through different states, each of which can be interpreted as a binary number, and we will allow them to go through a state so that they count the number as they move from one state to another. So those are called counters. We will look at it in the next lecture onwards. Thank you.